Well, hello friends, and welcome back to the cabin. I'm on my way down to Stephen and Jennifer's house because I think that they finished installing the garage doors last night in the dark by flashlight. So they said that it would be important for us to cover up the track because it wouldn't work very well once any drywall mud got dried, and it would be difficult to scrape it off, and then you don't want to take a chance on bending anything. Yeah, it looks like they've got it done. So Jennifer got some saran wrap last night, and I think she left it here. I'm going to get on a ladder and get up there and try to wrap those tracks so that it protects them. And then maybe on the inside of the door I might hang a tarp or something like that, so that because they have a side door that they can go in and out, that way they don't get anything all over the door and then we have to try to scrape that off and clean it up. So let's go over here and check it out. That's what the garage doors look like. Of course, you can see there's a big mess here that needs to be cleaned up. That's the way it goes when you're building, isn't it? Ooh, that sun is powerful. All right, so there's the installation of the garage door. So I'm going to go in here and grab one of the ladders and see if I can find the saran wrap that she left and try to get some of this covered up for her. Well, I found the wrap that she left, but she didn't bring any tape or anything to tape it down, so I'm going to have to walk back up here to the top of the hill and get the staple gun so that I can staple it down to the frame. You know, in the last Outpost video, when I was doing the wiring there in the house, friends, I just tell you that I can't show everything that I do because the videos would end up being 10 hours long, and that's just not feasible. So there was a comment about the wire in the splice that I made. I will tell you that it was protected in the back of the wall, and also it was labeled and identified before I put the front face on the actual breaker box right there. So in answer to any of the questions that may have come about, it was done properly and all is well. All right, friends, you can see I've got that wrapped up right there. Got the door covered. Got those over there wrapped up, as well as this other door covered. I guess that should be sufficient until they can get that sanded off and get the garage all prepped with the mud and everything ready to paint. That's the biggest thing, is keeping all that dust and moisture and mud out of there so that you don't have to clean the tracks up, because then the rollers, they won't roll smooth backwards and forwards. Anyway, I'll meet you back up here at the top of the hill. You know, in one of the recent videos we had some comments about why didn't I use a shipping container, or why didn't I use some other sort of prefab module to sit in this hole. And before I go on any further, you know, the sun is very bright out here, so I'm not trying to be rude, but I am going to wear my sunglasses just so that I don't have to squinch my eyes. But the reason that I'm not using a shipping container or some other, like I said, preform module, is the simple fact is we don't have the money to be able to purchase one of those. So what you see me do around here primarily is because I'm using resources that I have available, and I think that I can build something that will be sustainable, something that will be able to protect us in the event that we have high damaging winds. And I know that some people may disagree with me, but that's okay, because we all have our own opinion. I have done some research online with structures that were made out of wood that are tornado proof. The way that they had designed this structure was they used, I think it was like 185 2x10s, and what they would do is they would sandwich them together with the middle one protruding about 1.5 inches. That way when you set the other row on top, they kind of interlocked, and then what you would do is not only glue that, but you would run screws through from one side to the other. Now that's all fine and good. I don't think that I will do that myself on the three sides. The side that's facing the dirt here, the one in the back, and this side. I will, however, do the one on the front. I will develop another interlocking mechanism to where the face meets the corner, all right? They also used hurricane straps top and bottom. They had it on a 4-inch slab of concrete that had anchor bolts to hold the bottom plate down, and then, like I say, the hurricane straps on the bottom and the top, so that if there was any kind of lift created, it would work against that, as well as the top. Now, since I'm going to cover it with earth, I'm not concerned about any winds damaging any of the top structure that I may have, and because they will basically blow over. Now, I will have to be concerned with any trees that may fall on the top, so I'm going to have to do some support regardless of whether it's a concrete slab with reinforced rebar. We don't want anything to crack up top that's going to be able to create a leak later on. So what I may do is I may cut several beams and run them in a crisscross pattern to be able to help support the dirt that I put on the top. And then what they had done was they had used 2 layers of plywood on the outside, and I think they were talking about marine grade plywood, which is very, very expensive. But I still wouldn't put marine grade plywood against the dirt, because later on, you know, there's going to be lots of moisture in there, and even though it's a high quality type of plywood, it still has the ability to rot over time. On the outside of those walls, before they added the plywood, they used, I can't remember if it was a 14 or a 12-inch gauge metal on the side, and then they put the plywood on, and then all of that was anchored to the structure itself. But it was very interesting how they had taken wood actually and developed a tornado-proof structure. Now, if I had the money, I would buy, because, you know, it would be ready to go and just set it in there. But my idea is to do something a little bit different, like I say, with the resources that we have available, so that we can develop something that will be different than just trying to hide in a corner of the cabin, you know, or running over to my sister's house in her root cellar. So the idea that I have is to take and use kind of like dovetail, which I haven't done that before, you know, square timbers. And what we're going to do is dovetail those in, because they won't give from side to side, but there could be the possibility of them creating lift. So what I'm going to do is create a channel within the dovetail to be able to put in, like, say, a 2x4, so that I will have a channel to set that down in and glue and screw, okay, but they will still sit flat on top of each other, and then the corners are already interlocking. But I'm also going to put long timber screws in those to be able to hold one against the other, as well as using the hurricane straps from top to bottom. And what I may do is use something like a 2x6 to go from the bottom to the top, not only screwing that and locking that into place, but providing a place that I can put the hurricane straps on the top, like I say, and on the bottom, or on the bottom and on the top. The other thing is to be able to put possibly 3 feet of earth over the top of that. I'm hoping that I can come up with enough to be able to cover the top of that, so my only concern will be the face. And I think that there's a possibility that I may go ahead and do what they did on the face of that with the interlocking 2x10s with the sheet metal across the front. That marine grade plywood is going to be able to help withstand any impact of, say, debris that may be flying, and then the metal behind that, you know, will not being able to go anywhere. You know, if it was something sharp, you know, like a knife, it may protrude that and go on in, but then you've got all of the layers beyond that. You know, folks, unless you just dig a tunnel in the ground somewhere, like you're building a cave, and you've got a small inlet, right, that may turn different corners like this so that you don't have a straight through pass, and then you have a an area on the inside that is open where, you know, I don't have the ability to do that. I don't have the money and or the resources, you know, which is excavators and things like that, to be able to build something. I'm going to do the best that I can, you know, because I don't want to just be out in the wide open, which is what I am now, basically, you know, as far as weather is concerned. And the weather has changed in the last 3 or 4 years with high winds and threats of, you know, tornado warnings and things like that, that it's almost like getting caught with your pants down. And I tell you what, I'm not going to get caught naked out here with not having a place to go to, because I may not have time to put my dogs in the truck, you know, and take them over to my sister's house, because once I get across the road down there, there are so many tall trees that, you know, in big windstorms like that, that I would just be afraid to be traveling in my vehicle. So what my intentions are is to cut back some of the taller trees in the perimeter now that have grown up over the last 3 years. When my son and I leveled a bunch of them up here, we've got more pines. You can see them in the background back there that have grown probably 15-20 feet maybe. So that gets them up higher where there is more chance, you know, of them rocking like this, and they uproot with the cedar trees. Those are the two primary ones in this area, because they don't have a good root system. And since they're evergreen, you know, they stay with the needles and so forth. You know, we have 2 different types of cedars here, but they stay like that all year round, winter and summer. So any type of wind that comes through, regardless of what time of the year it is, you know, and especially if the ground is saturated, they can get to rocking enough where they will uproot and they will fall depending on the direction that they were at the last point of, you know, leaning. So I wouldn't want them to come this way and land on the cabin, and I wouldn't want them to go and land on the top of my shelter, you know, which could block the entrance, right, for me to be able to get out. So I need to take that into consideration when I'm building as well. Well, friends, I don't even know where I was at, because when I was talking to you, I heard a vehicle coming through. Sounded like it didn't even have any mufflers on, and so I turned the camera off real quick and I ran over and checked out, you know, because I can see the road down there with no leaves on the trees right now. And it was a jacked up Suburban, kind of a nasty looking green color, 4-wheel drive, probably doing maybe 40, but hitting passing gear at every curve they came to. Went all the way down to the end of the road, turned around and came back through. So I called the sheriff's department. I said, hey, you know, this is what's up. Gave them the description of the vehicle, and they said that they would send an officer out. When the officer got here, you know, we were talking. I told him, I said, you know, I've seen this so much out here. They need to put speed bumps, you know, out here. He said, well, they can't do that, because if somebody came through very fast and screwed up their vehicle, that the county would be liable. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. I would think that the person speeding would be liable. And he said, well, that's just the way the courts look at it. I said, well, the courts are looking at it wrong. And he said, well, those people have rights. I said, so do we. I said, we have the right to live in a peaceful area where people drive the speed limit and don't act like idiots, because they're not the only ones on the road. They're going to end up killing someone, especially when the leaves get out on the trees, because you won't be able to see. They're going to kill somebody's dog. You know, my grandson and daughter are getting ready to move up here, and I told him, I said, somebody needs to take a tire out. It's what they need to do, maybe to help stop that. And he goes, well, then they could, you know, end up in jail or something happen. I said, you know what? I would rather something like that happen to me as opposed to someone losing their life, okay? To me, that would be a good trade. Now, the reason that I'm on this side of the cabin is the guys showed up that were working on Jennifer's sheetrock, so I ran down there to meet with them after I, you know, covered that up, and they said that that was good, that that would help them, but also that all of the buckets of mud were frozen solid. So they have a motor running, powering a heater that would run out in about, he said, about 4 or 5 hours. Hopefully they can heat that mud up enough where they can come and work tomorrow. He said the problem was inside the house was so cold. I said, well, it's been insulated very well. That's the reason why. Anyway, friends, I'm going to have to try to get busy and do something, because it seems like I've got nothing done today except running. So friends, I just want to say thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with us. You know, hopefully when Jennifer gets moved up here, we can get her on camera more than what she is or has been here lately. But for my son, Patrick, Jennifer, and myself, again, thank you so much for stopping by. We certainly do appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.